welcome to the SalesSheros podcast, where we celebrate and empower women in sales. I'm LaDonna Hale, and I am here with my co-host, Angie Gonzalez. How are you, Ange?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's so good to see you again.
So good to see you. Let me spit that out. In today's episode, I know, right? In today's episode, we're tackling the theme of breaking upper limits. With our own experiences of overcoming challenges, we bring insights and inspiration to help you shatter barriers and achieve success in your sales journey. So, Ange, what are you doing this week?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is a travel week for me. So, I travel between 3 states. I go to Seattle, Denver, and the Bay Area a lot. So I'm in Denver this week, but I do have kind of a funny story to share with all of our Sheros. So in sales, when you're field sales, you pack and you repack and you pack again, but you prepare yourself by checking the weather 4 or 5 times wherever you're going. Do I have the right clothes? Do I have all the right accessories? So in getting ready for Denver, I was like, okay, there's not going to be any snow. There's not going to be any rain. It'll be cold, but I'm fine. This is going to be awesome. So I flew in last night. No big deal. A little cold, brisk. I don't mind. Everything's dry here in Denver. I love it out here. And then I wake up this morning, most beautiful sunrise. It's on my LinkedIn. Everybody go check it out. Most gorgeous sunrise I've seen. A lot of gratitude, meditation around it. And then I'm getting ready for the day. I have a full day of meetings. And I look out the window before I'm getting ready to walk out of the hotel room. And lo and behold, it is snowing. I am not kidding you. It is like full on blizzard. I have no boots. I have no scarf. I have no hat. I have no umbrella. I have no gloves. I literally am in white capri pants, white tennis shoes with the cute top that I have to wear for our event. And I'm thinking to myself, I really look like I don't fit in here because everyone's in boots and hats and gloves, like all the things. I was like, okay, Denver, like this is how you're rolling. And so the front desk, I said to the gentleman, I said, what is up with your weather? He said, don't worry, it'll be tapered off by 1. And I was like, oh, good Lord. Okay. So that's just right. Traveling sales rep's life is like, no matter how much you prepare, you still have to like figure it out. So I ended up having 2 sweatshirts on with my shirt and my jacket, trying to like get out, slush my way to the rental car. Luckily in Denver, if you ever rent a car here in the winter, they always put one of those brushes on your passenger seat. And every time I'm always annoyed, like, I don't need that. And I toss it to the back seat. So today I'm like going to the back seat, looking for that brush to do the windows. So it was quite comical, but that's my traveling sales story for this morning. So
yeah. It's amazing. I know I don't cover the geography that you cover. So I have so much stuff in my car, right? I cover all of Oregon. So I'm in my car more. I'm not flying like Angie is. I'm more in my car. But I mean, my territory consists of the coast and Portland Metro and South Medford. I mean, like, so it can be all, I've got rain boots in there and like 3 coats, raincoat, kind of raincoat, light coat, heavy coat. Anyway, it's always awesome. Challenging as a sales rep, especially when you're flying. So, Angie, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm honored to be on here with you. And this topic hits so hard for me, because you and I have both similar stories in overcoming different challenges, different traumas, but overcoming upper limits. And really, for me, I have 2 grown daughters. And when they were little, they have 2 different fathers, and they're spread 5 years apart. And I had challenging relationships all while working in sales, going to school part-time, working with one, and then working in sales with my second, and not having a partner that was available to me to help. Really, I was doing it alone with my parents' help. They were phenomenal before I met my husband. And in living in that, I've had to overcome a lot of insecurities, and really strive to be confident in who I am and be peaceful and joyous, because not only do my kids have 2 different fathers, but they're 2 different colors. And so it was very obvious that I was a single. I was confusing to people, and some people were intrigued and some people were judgmental. And so early on, I set myself up based on how I was raised to have some things to overcome, challenges, right? I created some space for myself that was probably harder than I needed to be. I was working in corporate sales, I've got 10 years of sobriety because in those pains and not dealing with those pains and certain traumas, I was succeeding in my business and my family was okay. But then I started drinking and that became problematic for me. So 10 years ago, I quit drinking and I've just done so much healing and overcoming past challenges that created space for me to be insecure, to be afraid to show up authentically, to be just kind of missing in really the like finding joy and flow in my life. And I've just done so much work around this, overcoming upper limits. And so this is a topic I'm passionate about. One, because of my own personal, but also with you and watching you overcome challenges as we've been friends and hearing the stories from prior to our friendship. Um, just that I know we've both really kicked the ass of some big things that could have kept us held back in all of the paths in our life. And so what are some upper limits? Why don't you share a little bit about kind of your story?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I I think for me, a little bit of the same story. So single mom at 23 years old, working multiple jobs to make sure that I could provide. Growing up in the 70s, a military daughter, no daddy issues there, right? So a little bit of daddy issues growing up, obviously some traumas there. And my mom, she's a homemaker, but had a very successful business out of the home. But, her answer to kind of all life's problems back then was just, if you find a guy, it'll be happy, everything in your life will come together. And so I started out in my early 20s of like, oh, I just need to find someone and my life will be amazing and great, not healing any childhood traumas or anything like that. So I kind of focused on that along the course of my early adulthood. And then I had to overcome a lot of failed relationships, right? And then confidence issues within them and security issues that I've had within them. And so thanks to you, I didn't even know about upper limits until we became friends and started really diving in with each other on topics that were the same. So I'm thankful for you as a friend because you're the one that introduced me to upper limits. And I'm so jazzed we're on this topic today because we both have done so much growth around it. But since from then to now, and it's a constant work in progress, it's like I'm finally able to look back and realize that I have raised a very beautiful, strong, independent daughter as well. And I'm finally learning how to put me first, like truly, humbly, without being conceited, putting me first and loving myself for who I am, the good and the bad. And then that way I can be better for me and for others. So yeah, this is a good topic today. And I'm super jazzed. We're going to dive in.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Just important. I think it helps other people when you can share some pieces of your own challenge. I know I look at you from the outside looking in and things always have looked really put together. And I know probably the same for you, but we all have, at each phase and stage in our life, right? We're always evolving. And so I found myself hitting some upper limits now, and I'm actually doing a discipline challenge around that. I'm doing 75 hard again for the second time through day 9 because I have some barriers in my business and finance and some things that we want to achieve that with the secondary business that I found myself stopping myself. And so I understand that and I can see it quickly now, where in the past I would have just worked for 5 years trying to figure out what was going on before addressing it.
Never got to be successful. What's my problem?
Yes, what's holding me back? Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are the upper limits that you've had? Like, what are some of the upper limits that you've had to go through and deal with?
Yeah, it's interesting. So fear of failure is one. Fear of failure. Kind of like not. I understand my true potential, but then limiting my mindset was limiting me, right? Like holding me back from achieving some things that I want to achieve. And some other things can be like lack of skill development, like fear of failure, lack of skill development. Some upper limits could be around monetary, right? Like, I follow some influencers who have done incredible. I pared down how many I follow because I used to follow everybody and I'm like, oh my gosh, how are they doing what they're doing? And half the time they're not really doing what they say they're doing. So I found some really powerful ones that I know, like I love Robin Sharma. I love Ed Milet. I know who to follow, who's actually talking the talk and walking the walk and doing the do, right? Doing the important things to empower and help other people. So, some upper limits for me have been like around finance, and then around what I can accomplish in a business. Because I know when I stop and look back at what I have accomplished, it's pretty powerful considering where I came from. But I also know that there's so much more that I can do, and the more that and it's less. It's interesting because an upper limit for me has been that in the past, it's been that, okay, I want to earn this because, well, I want to give back more.
Right.
I've shifted that. I want to be able to give back more. The more money I make, the more I can give back. Right. So,
100%.
so those are some upper limits that I've faced personally. What about you?
I think for me, one of the biggest things was disappointing others. I don't know if that's just because of how I was raised in the 70s by a military, drill sergeant. You're constantly trying to please and be that pleaser. So for me, definitely disappointing others. And a big one is also self-doubt. I always, even when I think I'm getting 2 steps out, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I'm like, but, well, really, no, I can't really, blah, 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 blah. And I definitely have a lot of self-doubt. And then not being good enough. And, I worked through this feeling like I wasn't good enough, even when you and I started being friends, comparing myself to where you're at, what you're achieving, what you're doing. And I remember the one time you sat me down and you're like, I love you, but don't compare yourself to me. Like, you're your own human. Like, you're amazing. You can do this. You just got to get past your upper limits. I was like, what the heck is that? And you're like, here's a book. And so, but you constantly had to remind me for a short while as my friend to say, you have great ideas too. And, don't compare to me. I have my own struggles too that I'm achieving. You're seeing my successes, right? And so I think when we have good relationships with people, those kind of feeling like not being good enough and comparing myself to other people, it was a topic I was okay to have with you because it was a safe space to have it, right? So, yeah.
I love that, Angie. And I love that you trust me. And I love that you also call me out when I need to be called out. I want to just touch on this because this is a completely different topic and we can talk about this a different time. But like, if you as a woman do not have a tribe of women who help you level up and who are honest with you with love, I don't mean being mean and cutting you down. I mean, honest about things that they see that you maybe can improve in. You need to figure out a way to create that for yourself because
right.
Angie and I have that and it's powerful. And so I just want to say that.
It doesn't happen overnight either, right? Like, it doesn't happen, but I think because we were both open to feedback and communication and we valued and respected our friendship more than any other topic we spoke about, it made it easier. So I agree with you. If you're in a position where you don't have a tribe, there are so many friends that suck our energy dry. So let God sort them out of your life. I guarantee you it is for a purpose, and better people will come in that can support you and be there for you and even give you the constructive feedback you need when you need it the most. Okay.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Why not? I love you. Oh my gosh. Okay. So exploring methods of self-reflection and introspection to recognize personal limits. Angie will share some books at the end because there's some powerful books and I love Audible to be able to get to the next level, using your friends, exploring methods of self-reflection. Sometimes we can't see it, but our friends can see it. So just ask honestly, hey, where do you see me holding myself back in my life? Like I kept saying, I'm not doing another 75 hard. I'll never do another 75 hard. I found myself hitting these upper limits. I messaged my daughter and I said, hey, I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but hey, I'm going to do a 75 hard. She dove in with me because she was rolling it around anyway. She's loves Andy Frisella and is connected to his business and sharing some things that anyway, like it was perfect divine timing to do this because I have some things I want to level up in. So, what are some upper limits and how does it manifest in different areas of your life?
Yeah. So, for all of our Sheros out there that are kind of confused, like, what the heck is an upper limit? What are they even talking about right now?
Yeah.
I want to step back for just a bit and just talk about, so the easiest way that I found to kind of think about upper limits is if you imagine 2 parallel lines And between those lines is your life, surrounded by your friends, your family, your job, your habits and patterns. So we go through our everyday life between these two lines. But the moment that we hit or get outside of that line, your whole ecosystem, your ego, your subconscious, everything freaks out, right? Because you're completely out of the norm. So that's upper limit right there. So upper limit problems can manifest like this. So you've got a huge win. We've all been there. We've got this huge win. And then all of a sudden you get in an accident, break a limb, fry out your computer, you overdrink, you overeat, you overspend, you start a fight with your friends, your family, or you could even get really sick, right? Then that's your subconscious, your ego again, bringing in the negative or the behaviors that kind of ruin what it is that you work so hard to achieve. So that to me is what an upper limit is and how it can manifest in your life if you're not paying attention to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, that's huge. So, and strategies for breaking upper limits. Like I just talked about 75 hard. You have to find a way to replace a new habit with an old habit with a new habit. So one, you have to recognize what those upper limits are, and then you need to put some things in place for yourself. So for me, it's my gratitude practice every morning. It's my I am statements. It's my future gratitude. I wrote out a proposition for the year of where I want to be with my corporate job. And then also sorry, my dog is going to bark because the UPS guy just came. So just bear with me for 1 second.
Welcome to life.
Yes, real life. My dog he's grumbly. Do you hear him? There he goes. He's grumbling at the front door. At least he's only grumbling because sometimes he gets ferocious. Anyway, okay. So recognizing strategies to break over limits. So creating a practice for yourself. So my morning routine, future gratitudes. Oh, I was talking about I wrote out a statement that I read that is really specific to the goals I want to and am achieving this year in my business, as well as with SalesSheros, as well as with my workbook that I rewrote, right? I read this little statement every morning and at night that's talking about, it's like a vision board. It's what I'm going to accomplish by the end of the year, and the feelings associated with that. Not just that it's going to happen. It's like the feelings associated with crossing that off, and that helps me stay focused and break those upper limits. Exercise helps me. Accountability, friend groups, and family, that helps me. Those are some things that kind of work for me to overcome upper limits.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I read the same book you have. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. The one that kind of really changed our path and of how we're looking at upper limits, and the fact that we can now see them not only in ourselves, but like how when I'm talking to friends and they're telling me, I'm like, hey, how are you? How's your life? And they start telling me, and I hear where they're like, I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden they tell me something negative. I'm like, that's an upper limit. So I think, I want to make sure it's easy to always get talk in the negative, but I know SalesSheros is all about empowerment, and that's what we're doing. So I want to make sure to give some tips on how our Sheros can kind of push themselves outside of their comfort zone and really embrace that discomfort to create that ambitious goals for themselves. I mean, I love that you do the daily practice. I do them as well. And so I love that you have that little kind of like statement that you do every day, because that's reminding you every morning that you get up, like no matter what the day gives me, this is it. This is what I'm focusing on. So I think, recognizing the benefits of embracing challenges, that's a huge thing. Stepping out of your comfort zone to be uncomfortable. You're doing 75 hard. That is very uncomfortable. Not very many people can do that. And then I'm a sounding board too. When you're like, I don't want to go. I'm like, go again. Like, you got it. Right. When your friends know you're doing something, they can help cheer you on, but you have to be in the uncomfortable. And that's where we grow, is in the uncomfortable. And that's why I think, I have no doubt this 75 hard challenge for you this year, you're going to knock it out of the park. Like you're crushing it. But you got to start somewhere. So small steps, right? Step by step, create those daily habits that you were just talking about. That's really important for our Sheros to do. And then seek out new experiences. That also helps get you out of your comfort zone. It's going to push you to the upper limit of, if you're not a good public speaker, well, maybe I'll just give one statement to 3 people. That's a huge thing to do if you're not normally a person that speaks publicly with people. And always ask, this is one thing I always do when I reach an upper limit, is I always ask myself, what is the worst thing that can happen by me not doing X, Y, and Z or addressing X, Y, and Z? What's the worst that can happen? I feel uncomfortable. They think I'm weird. Okay, well, that's already going to happen. So let me now flip my mindset and go, what could happen, right? Now that I feel uncomfortable and awkward, what is the best thing that could happen about me doing X, Y, and Z? So if I take and you could do it in 30 seconds, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and go, what's the worst thing that could happen by me doing this? Okay, fine. Now, what's the best thing that could happen to me? And then that's what you're leaving yourself with, is overcoming with that mindset. And then when you do it, reward yourself, right? Reward yourself for doing uncomfortable things. And a reward can be as simple. I mean, I don't even want to talk about rewards, because it could be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a monetary value. It could be calling an old friend just to say, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of you. I want to share what worked for me, might work for you. Surround yourself with supportive people. If I did not surround myself with LaDonna Hale back, and I swear it's always a God thing, right, when our paths cross, but you came into my life at a time when I needed an uncomfortable change. Personal, professional, financial, emotional. That's when I met you. And you were also going through your own changes. You were also dealing with your own things. But so surrounding yourself with supportive people, finding good role models. And then this last one is exactly what you're doing every single day, is remember what it is that you're trying to achieve. What is it you're wanting to achieve? So I am not currently writing that statement out, but after talking to you and hearing what you're doing, I'm going to go and I'm going to write myself a statement that I read to myself every day, because I need to be reminded tangibly, what am I wanting to achieve? So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. I've done that in the past and I kind of forgot about it. It was in, when we went and watched Sharon Lecter speak, and I won that book. So I won Think and Grow Rich. I love her. I won Think and Grow, a signed copy of Think and Grow Rich for Women. And I've been through that book so many times, and it's highlighted and it's earmarked. And, I'm a part of 75 Hard is physically reading, not Audible, but physically reading 10 pages a day in personal development. So that's the first book I pulled out because it was on my shelf and I was like, okay, let's have a refresher. And that statement is in, I think, like chapter 2 or 3, where you write out your vision statement for the year and you carry it around on a little postcard or wherever, a Post-it note. Mine's a little postcard because I can easily take that because I'm traveling a lot. And it's been so helpful. And, in saying that, it's cultivating the growth mindset. So really, why is it so important to have a growth mindset? Why is it so important to constantly be working on yourself and evolving? Because you will hit a different ceiling at different times in your life. And I was feeling myself hitting that. And I feel the same way about you, Angie, in that we came into each other's lives exactly at the time that we needed it. Because in cultivating a growth mindset for myself, I'm a giver. I want to give to everybody. I want to give all my time, all my money. I really like you, I'm a giver. And I don't say that for any kind of kudos, other than I had to learn to do some boundary setting around that, because you have to insulate. You can give too much and then you're not replenished, and you're not filling your own bucket back up. And I was doing a lot of that at that time in my life, because I had a lot of people around me who were not, they were not as willing to break those barriers and go to the next level. And so people will naturally kind of fade out of your life. And I was in that stage in my life where there was a lot of shifting, a lot of people fading out of my life. And I didn't even realize what was happening as God was blessing me with these friendships, even past, even friendships that had already been there, but that just weren't getting nurtured enough, because my energies were going to places and people that were just depleting my energy source, literally, like just depleting. And you and Mariah are the only two people that have ever called me out on that. Hey, here's some things I'm seeing.
I love you, but
yes, and so healthy for me, because I didn't recognize what was happening. And so in cultivating a growth mindset, it allows you to recognize those upper limits quicker, and then to create and cultivate a core group around you that will call you out when it starts to happen. Like, or that will just present something because of the way they're living their life that you're like, okay, I think this is happening for me. Like I'm having a little bit of a roadblock right here. And then when you have a roadblock, self-sabotage is what happens. So then you'll chip away at what you've already done and you won't break past that next glass ceiling, and you'll maybe even regress.
Right. And that's totally true. And the depleting part, I mean, our true friends know, they see it and they know it. We're not always open to hearing it in that moment, right? Because we're so frustrated. But when you made your shift, it was when you can see your friend, and I know you've seen this in me too, but when you can see your friend go from stressing out on things that no longer served them to then them sorting it out. And I mean, it's like night and day. It's like a whole new woman showed up. And it was weird because it was just a little mini pivot, a little bit of a shift. They were like, I got to draw this boundary. Okay, cool. I'm going to draw the boundary. But it was like, as your friend to witness it, it was so cool. It was like one of the coolest things I've seen. And then now recognizing when things are depleting you. And then I learned from you. So when I now have people or things depleting me, I'm like, stop. I want to give. I want to help. I want to serve. But no longer will it be at the cost of me.
Yeah.
So,
valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
valuable.
it's huge.
Yeah, share a story of someone who successfully transformed their mindset and achieved extraordinary results.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys. So in starting the SalesSheros podcast, it's fun because we get to do a lot of research on looking up women all around the world and just kind of learning things. But one that always has just kind of rang true for me was, Emily Dickinson, right? She wrote about the bird who stopped making nests because somebody criticized them. Like don't we do that every single day? We stop doing something we love to do because someone had an opinion about it. Well, in the end, she ended up being the bird. So, Emily was a prolific poet who published just a single book in her lifetime. And it wasn't because she lacked talent or skill. It was because she was rejected time and time and time again by publishers who simply didn't think her work was good enough. Like, does that not resonate with some of us or what? So by the time her story is so for me, her story is a perfect example of this because she turned her failure into a success. She didn't let rejection get her down. Instead, she used it as a motivation to become better and to prove everyone wrong. And that's exactly what she did. So Dickinson's poetry is now some of the most celebrated poetry in the entire world. And I know that everyone's like, oh, but that's Emily Dickinson. But pause for a moment and put yourself in that scenario. You're criticized for passions and things you love to do because someone had an opinion. Someone who may or may not deserve to have an opinion in your life is giving that in your ear. So when you flip and pass your upper limit and you move past it, you kind of go, bless and release. LaDonna taught me that. I'm blessing and releasing you. Thank you, but I don't need that opinion. And then go about your way and do what it is you want to do because you can achieve it, just like Emily did.
Yeah, because those challenges and that adversity can come from childhood, right? Like birth and the family that we grew up in. Like you referenced, military dad. I grew up in a household that was very, the men ran everything. The men were going to do everything. I was subconsciously just set up to be a wife. Like there was no one talking about my brain. There was no one. It was always like my weight and how I looked and how I was going to attract a man. Right. Like,
well, that generation is like, get married, have the house, get the kids. And then no one in my generation or in my family like yours really gave you the guidance to be like, no, you want to be somebody for yourself? Let me show you, child, how to go do that.
Yeah. And I love the role. Like I love that I had a dad who was a provider. I made some choices though, because of what I saw in that was kind of sexist in our household, that I was like, I'm never doing that, where I've pivoted back now, like such a supportive, loving husband, that role is an important role in families, but it can cause so much damage. So that challenges and adversity. I don't want to get into the weeds about that, but I want to just address like those common obstacles and then how you break those. And one of the things that I do, that I've learned to do, that I wrote in a workbook that is now being revamped into a 21-day workbook and is coming out. And Angie and I are going to use this to do some coaching around, which will be really fantastic for everyone because it's so smart. But it's taking 5 core Values. I'm going to talk about one of the biggest upper limits is boundary setting. And so many people don't know how to set boundaries. We set boundaries in too strict a way. So we don't let anything in, or we don't set boundaries at all, is what I see so often. And that can be an upper limit. And so if you pick 5 core things that you're working on evolving all the time. So you take something in your spirituality, you take something in your personal life, you take something in your business, you take something in your financial life, and then you take your personal relationships, personal experience, and you're always working on evolving one thing in each of those areas. Boundary setting becomes incredibly easy. It is so easy for me now to put the brakes on and say, no, I bought a ticket to something. It doesn't serve me to go to that event, but I just gifted it forward to a designer that's going to love it and have a blast, because I quickly realized after I purchased the ticket, I was like, this doesn't work. I can't do this tonight. This night that it's happening. But I noticed it quickly, right? So then it still was easy for me to gift that forward to someone who will benefit, someone I like a lot. I shifted that out really easily. There's no guilt. You don't have guilt, no remorse. I carry no guilt when I say no to something. And even if I couldn't have gifted it forward, it's still a no for me. I would have just said no to that event and just written that off as a loss, right? So when you know what the top 5 things are that you're working on, it makes it really easy to overcome challenges and adversity and say no to things. It makes boundary setting super simple, because if it's not aligned with that, then it's not happening right now. That's my biggest, best piece of advice. If you can just pick one small area that you're making shifts and evolving in, and then reflecting back. So on Sundays, I reflect back. I look at my week and I'm like, okay, did my friends get my time? Did my husband get my time? Did I get my time? Did I do things for myself? Did my spiritual practices get enough time this week? Did my business get enough time? Did I do something that's helping me up level in my finance? And I can see where the holes are really quickly that way.
That's powerful.
That's really I feel powerful. Like it's really helpful, right? I mean, and it seems really complicated at first, but once I've been doing this for like 5 years. Since I started it, my life has changed. So I'm in so much more joy. My life is more joyous. Thank you.
We should put before upper limit practicing and after upper limit practice photos. We should put that on our social media.
There's a difference.
Because just looking at your health and just, facial expressions and everything and how you carry yourself. Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's huge.
So yeah. What's your story around that, Ange?
Let's see. I think for me, and we talked about this on another podcast too, is around resilience and perseverance, and bouncing back from failures. A lot of the people that are still in my circle today that have watched my journey through decades can attest to change. A lot of people go, people don't change. I am a complete example that people can change. So for me, if I didn't do daily habits around gratitude and affirmations, that's what I needed to do for me to feel comfortable with me. I had to work on me, my insecurities, pushing through complete internal pain, feeling like I'm not worthy enough. It was painful. And when I look back now, I had to go through all that pain. I really had to push through all of that to understand where I needed to heal from. But I knew that deep down, I knew that I deserved more. I knew that I wanted more in life. And I'm not talking about just monetarily, but like from a financial perspective. I just knew I wanted better friends. I wanted, just a better career. I want to make better choices, and have the tribe around me. So I did a lot of counseling. I'm a huge advocate of counseling. I know a lot of people have their own comment about counseling. I definitely cleaned out my friendship groups. That was a must for me because I am such a giver and wanting to do for other people. It was always at the expense of how I was feeling, and I was getting resentful. So then I was not being a good friend to these people that I thought I wanted to be a good friend to, right? And then I invested in myself with the personal coaching. I know I've done some of that with you as well. And I found mentors that actually genuinely care about me as a human. Not, I'm aligned to her on this program, so I have to help her through it. No. I weeded through the mentorship world to find people that I really valued who they are, how they carry themselves, what they believe in, where their professional life is, and said, okay, that's the guy. That's the gal. Those are the people that I want to connect with. And then they can help me achieve those goals. So like with you, I accepted constructive feedback only from the people that I respected and wanted to model my life after. So no longer the people that were giving me their opinions. Why don't you do this? You should do that. Well, have you thought about this? Well, have you thought of that? I don't understand why you're doing that. All those negative things, I just was able over time to just shut out. And it was like the Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 right? Because I was like, no, only from people that I respected and wanted to model my life after did I listen to. So it's taken me years. I've been doing this, for I think my upper limits. I think I'm also going on maybe 4 years. I'm a little behind you on that journey. And I'm always constantly working on me to be the best that I can be for myself, my family, my friends, and just anybody else that I come in contact with, really. So.
Yeah, I love that. Leveraging resources and support. Angie's going to share a bit more about some things that, some spots, some places you can go for this, that you can trust us. These things work. They're things we've done, we've used. The other thing too is, look, we live in a world that is so digitally connected, but there's pros and cons to that. Don't let it be an upper limit that you get so caught up in learning and training and doing and all the different voices that are out there around something that you get lost going down rabbit holes all the time, because that can happen. That has happened to me. I've over invested in coaching. I've spent too much money on coaches where I just needed to be taking action because I had the tools to take it to the next level, but I was so distracted at times by all of the noise pollution that's out there, because it really is noise, especially on the internet. And is not everyone is vetted that shows up as a coach online, right? So you need to find people that have done what you want to do, that are aligned with your core values. And really, and I do believe coaching is phenomenal. I do believe that it can be incredibly impactful and incredibly important, but I think that you can be oversold a bill of goods that you may not need in order to be able to take it to the next level. I mean, Angie and I are working toward coaching sales reps, and that will happen. That is a part of what's coming for us. But we won't oversell anything because of what has happened to us in the past. The value will 100% be there. So I just want to say, as you're looking, make sure the value is truly there, that you see the impact coming, that you vet the people that you're pulling resources from, because that matters. It's important. What are some things, some places?
I think the first place that everyone should start, if you have not already read this very short, and again, I'm dyslexic, I don't like reading, but I have to read it 2 or 3 times to understand it, is literally the book by Gay Hendricks, the Upper Limit book. It demonstrates how to go beyond your upper limits internally, release outdated fears, and learn a whole new set of powerful skills and habits to liberate your authentic greatness. That was the very first book both LaDonna and I read to learn about. I'm sorry. Thank you. It's called The Big Leap.
The Big Leap. Yeah. No worries. I'm just throwing that in there. The Big Leap. Yeah. Because if you go looking for it.
Yes. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Thank you for that. So, but that was the very first book that we read. She read it first, and then she saw me struggling. She's like, read this book. You can just have mine. And it's super short read. And it literally is life-changing. I have now owned my own book. I have it now where I have it highlighted as well, dog-eared certain things. And I reread that book because I forget things along the way. So that's the one. There's a good podcast out there by Rita Hyland called How to Overcome an Upper Limit Problem. I followed her for a while. She's a great gal. Definitely get in there and listen to that. And then one of our definite go-to podcasters around upper limits and achieving greatness is Ed Milet. If you are not connected to Ed Milet, M-Y-L-E-T-T, if you're not connected to him, follow him. And I know not everyone's for everyone, but this guy is just a no fluff. Here's how you get it done. But he also has such empathy for people. He's so kind. He's just such a human, like a good human. You know what I mean? So those are the ones that we're recommending on today's episode.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Angie. Celebrate your successes and your progress. Take time to celebrate the small victories. And like Angie said, you pick what works for you to celebrate the small victories. My husband and I get one weekend a month that we really just get to have each other. And we just spent the entire weekend poking around different places on the Columbia Gorge. We went up the Washington side, up the Oregon side, sat in the hot springs. We took hikes. We saw the waterfalls. It was bright, sunny weekend, all weekend. And it just like, I'll be fine till we do our next weekend in another 3 weeks because it just fills my soul. So that's a small win that's celebrating a small win for us because we have a lot going on in our careers and we have a lot going on with caring for my parents. And so make sure you take the time to celebrate your achievements.
I love that. Yeah. And the importance of gratitude and reflection. It's important in order to stay motivated. We're on here to share with you guys what's been working for us because no one really was out there back in the day to kind of share those things. We've had to learn it along the way. But you have to stay motivated. You will lose your motivation. You will. It might happen every day for a while, but that's why your tribe is important. That's why these podcasts with people that you trust and you like their content are important because that can be the fuel on the days that you need it the most to stay motivated.
Yes, totally. So biggest takeaways is grab the big leap. Listen to the podcast that Angie recommended. I have not listened to that. So that's in my notes.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Find a way to sit down and write down those priorities in each of those areas and really stay focused on. I'm an actionable person. I have to have something to take action on. Like I can't just listen and then do nothing. So if you just did those small things, grab the big leap and go through that, sit down and write out one thing in each of those 5 areas that you're going to really work on improving, and then take the time to actually do that, do the due diligence around that. It will be life-changing for you. It takes time. You won't see immediate results from those things, but if you're always evolving and growing, then you're going to get to a space that you set boundaries easier, that you can recognize those upper limits quicker, and you can conquer and overcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Sheros, for joining us on this empowering journey of breaking upper limits and striving for greatness. As we wrap up today's episode, we encourage you to just keep pushing your boundaries and reaching for the stars. Remember, the journey to greatness is ongoing. So every step you take, it's going to count. So stay connected with us on social media. Be the first to know when our latest episodes are coming out, behind the scenes content, community discussions. We've been excited about having these community discussions with you guys. We love to hear from you. So you can find us on Instagram, on TikTok. You could always email us at salessheros@gmail.com. You actually get LaDonna and I. We don't have this amazing metaverse out there of people. You actually get her and I that are the ones writing to you and speaking to you personally. And I love this quote. So remember the wise words of Eleanor Roosevelt. You must do the things you think you cannot do. So keep pushing those boundaries and chasing your dreams. Bye, everybody.